Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. So, before we do the Dhyana shlokas, just an anecdote with Gurudev. Uh, this was the Chennai Gita Jnana Mahayagya being held in Sanskrit College. And at that point of time, another incident also happened with Chandrasekhar Mahaswamigal. That I'll tell you some other time. But this time, what happened was, so there was the sessions were like this. We would start early in the morning, mainly only the chicks and some of the bal vihars, some of the brahmacharis. They would be there early in the morning at 5 o'clock. We would wake up, we would do some chanting, and then there would be a small session with Gurudev. The Gita Jnana Yajna would start at 8:30. After breakfast was served, breakfast would be served at around 8 o'clock or 7:30, and then 8:30 we would start. This would carry on till about 12:30. 12:30 we would break for lunch. 1:30 Gurudev would leave. He would leave Sanskrit College to go wherever he was going. Normally he would not eat the lunch. He would leave at 12:30 because there would be some Diksha Vandanam, somebody would be offering. And he would go to that person's house, or it would be some other institution, and he would go there. And then he would either go for his rest. His rest used to be sit down and write letters. So he would sit down and write letters to people. He would catch up with his correspondence and so on and so forth. All of that, once that had finished, the evening session would start. Evening session was not about the Gita. We would start with some other prakarna grantha, depending upon the audience. So at that point of time, on that occasion, we were doing the very interesting text on which Puji Guruji, Swami Tejavayananji, has written later. This is called it is a part of the Mahanyasa of the Rudram. The submission of the mind to Shiva. Sankalpame Shivamastu. So that is that sloka, that series of slokas. So we were doing a study of that. So the session is supposed to begin at 5 o'clock. At about 4:45, all of us, we were about 8 or 9 of us. Our job was to clean up the hall. So we were dusting, brooming, cleaning up. At 4:55, we could hear cut. That was the khadam coming. We all moved out. He passed. We all did Shashtanga Namaskar. He just nodded his head, went to the stage. He looked at the watch, and it was 5. He started off. Oh, there was nobody in the hall. There was nobody. Just the 8 of us. Right? That was something that was a fantastic teaching for all of us. You must do your job irrespective of whether people are there or not. If they are there, very good. If they are not there, doesn't matter. My job is to come here, sit on this chair and teach. I will do it. Such an amazing learning. See, with him, it was almost, there's a book now. Somebody has compiled a book of events that have happened with people and how they have learned. The book's name itself is In Every Breath a Teaching. And it was absolutely true. Just being with him was a teaching of life. Being with him was a teaching of living in Advaita. So obviously I have no words to express my gratitude for this, whatever, whether it was my karma that propelled me to him, whether it was my mischievousness that propelled my grandfather to tie me up to one of the brahmacharis in Chinmaya Mission in Calcutta. But if there is something that can change life completely, that is to meet a realized person. Just one meeting is enough. So anyway, let us start. Veena-ji, will you please do the Dhyana shlokas?
ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयः प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमखरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः पाराशर्यवशः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटम् नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधना बोधितम् लोके सज्जनषट्पदैर्हरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयात् भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसिनः श्रेयसे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुत स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदे गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुसुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः
Okay, so today we will start with the Manan first. Then we will do the chanting. So the Manan was with the verse number 26, which said, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktyuparitam ashnami pratyayatmanaha. So here he says patram, leaf, pushpam, flower, phalam, fruit, toyam, water, yaha, who, may, to me, bhaktya, with devotion, prayachati, offers, tadaham, tat aham, that I, bhakti uparitam, offered with devotion, ashnami, eat, partake, absorb, prayata, atmanaha, for by one, yataha means one who has tried, who has joined, prayataha, prakarshena rupani yataha, such person who is completely immersed in this pure consciousness, in atmanaha, in consciousness. So here he says, whatever is offered to me with whatever that he says, leaf, flower, fruit, or even water, I will absorb it, I will take it with, if it is offered with love. Now, what does this mean? So, please, any thoughts? Yes, please, go ahead.
Let us start with Raghuji today.
Okay.
Yeah. So for one, at one level, the Lord is assuring us that it doesn't require a lot of ostentation, it doesn't require a lot of wealth. It just want to propitiate him. It requires the right intention, the devotion, the right thought. That is what is most important when making an offering to him. He is assuring them that if their means, what was available to them, was not possible to make very ostentatious gifts, it does not matter.
Okay. Parsada, anything else? Bodhi?
Here it looked to me that Lord Krishna is not telling us what to give him. He is not emphasizing on what to give him, but how to give him. I think the importance is there. You can give, when he says patram phulam pushpam or even water, which is easily available. One of these will be easily available. And I also felt that these are all his finally. So what he is asking is actually to us to give ourselves. And how do you give ourselves? With complete devotion, with complete surrender. So that is one thing I got. Another aspect I got is when you say it is with devotion, when true devotion comes out of true love for the Lord. And what is true love? True love is something is offered without expectation. Now here I got a clue that exactly here in 26, I get the answer that the transactional relationship stops. Because Lord in 22, as if, there was a transaction that you, I will protect you, etc., etc. Whatever, whenever you, if you call me with utter devotion. So here, that there is no transactional relationship. It is pure love. If you do through that, of course, I can invoke here 922 because if you do that, Lord will automatically take care of you. So that is what I felt, that what you give is immaterial. How you give is important.
Okay. Vinaji, have any thoughts on this?
This like आप जिस तरह से आप अपना भक्ति के रूप में आप जो भी भगवान को समर्पित करो, उस रूप में वो संतुष्ट होके हमें संतुष्ट हो जाता है. इतना समझ में.
Okay. Three different things. First, let us understand what is this offering and who are you offering to. So, who are you offering this to? Where is the offering being given? To whom? Now, if you are offering to Brahman, you can't offer him anything. You can't offer him anything because he does not interact with you. So who are you offering to? Firstly, that is one big, very important thing that we have to understand. That in this particular verse, the invocation is at the intermediate step which is required for us. Right? He who has reached the topmost floor, he has no need for the stair anymore, right? He has reached. But even when climbing up that stair, the 9th step is also counted as a step. Right? When we look at Viveka Chudamani and we say there are 9 steps he has given, what is the 9th step? The 9th step has been described as moksha. When we count steps in a staircase, we count the topmost step also. But it is actually technically not a step. So the intermediate stages is where we recognize something bigger than us. A consciousness which we can interact with, which is bigger than us. Right? Here is this interesting thing of the holistic approach of Advaita Vedanta, where it says that Your consciousness, my consciousness, everybody's consciousness is the same consciousness. But because of Maya, because of the power of avidya at an individual level, of Maya at a cosmic level, I am seeing all of these individuals as different. But when you look at it from piercing the veil of Maya, and yet you are there on the banks of that ocean, I'm using an analogy here, then you see that the ocean is bigger than the sum total of all its waves. Because of the immense amount of possibilities. To that consciousness which has taken form, to that consciousness which has saguna, is where the offering goes. Right? And therefore, that is the first thing. Obviously. Now, second, I mean, both you and Raghuji and as well as Veena ji also mentioned the right things, saying that yes, there is no need for ostentation. Whatever you offer will be accepted, and the offering must be given with the feeling of surrender. Right? Even a transactional devotion is accepted as a devotion by Bhagavan. He says, no, there are 4 types. Arti, Artharthi, Jignasu, and Jnani. He says, of course, he says that the Jnani is the dearest to me and so on and so forth. But does he say that the Arti is not a devotee? Does he say that the Artharthi is not a devotee? For that matter, Prahlad, aside, Dhruva, is exalted. Right? He is put into a position of immutability. We say, he who does not move, what is he? He is Dhruva. Right? So, a devotee who is asking for wealth, Artharthi, Dhruva, or Gajendra, what did he offer? He offered a lotus, which was lying in that pond or that lake in which he was stuck. Right? So whether it is a Gajendra, whether it is a Dhruva, they are also devotees. They are also being offered. Where is the offering here? It says that I cannot do this. I do not have the capacity to get what I feel I want. I may not need it, but I want it. But I don't have the capacity to get that. So here is a very small story. I'll come back to you, Raghuji. I think I may have mentioned this before. This was at the Pavai Sandipani Ashram. So there is a small room which has been set aside used to be set aside for Gurudev whenever he used to come to Sandipani. And he was there. There was satsang going on. Satsang with him was basically he would sit there, people would ask questions, he would answer. And he was a person who would give very clear, direct answers. Right? There would be no ambiguity in the way in which he approached a particular problem. And there would be no statements, and I'm not making a comment on any of the present gurus, but some of them do give you answers which leave you confused more than giving you clarity. Rather than, or sometimes they even ridicule the questioner. Right? Yeah, there would be no such thing. So people were never afraid of asking him questions. He would scold. He would scold. But his scolding itself was never to the person. It was always to the issue, to the situation. Right? And anyway, so coming back, this person came with 2 beautiful, large hibiscus flowers. Right? They were bright yellow, with the center was red. Right? Very unusual. And he brought them, and he laid the 2 hibiscus flowers with his 2 hands on the feet of Gurudev. And he did his namaskar. Gurudev looked at the flowers and said, "Wow, kya sundar phool." And he was speaking in Hindi at that time. He picked up the flowers and he said, "Bahut sundar phool hai. Kahan se leke aaye?" This man gave a sheepish smile and said, "Bagiche se." From the same garden in Sandipani Ashram. He's plucked the flowers, he brought them and he put them at his feet. Gurudev had a hearty laugh. He said, "Mera hi cheez mere ko de rahe ho." And then suddenly, this is where the teaching came in. And he just turned his entire energy onto this person and said, "Tumhara jo hai wo mujhe do. Jo tumhara hai wo mujhe do." And just think, what is it that we own? Our ego. Other than that, everything else. My body is also borrowed. Right? So what is it that I actually own? My ego. Nothing else. So that is the mental attitude with which one has to approach this particular verse. The second is an interesting Puranic story. So there was this king. He was doing a huge Satyanarayan puja. So there were a lot of priests, there was a lot of ayojan that had happened, and tons of shira had been made, and tons of flowers, and so on and so forth. Whole bunch of Vedic priests have been invited. A huge yagya was being conducted, Vishnu Sahasranam being chanted, tulsi leaves for each name, instead of one leaf, 1,000 leaves were being offered to the Lord, and so on and so forth. This is all in Satya Yuga. So when the Lord is called, he comes, right? So now Lord is not coming. Now, how can Naivedya be offered if the Lord is not there? So these people had to wait. So the Vedic priests kept on doing some chanting, After a long time, then the Lord appeared in all his glory, 4 hands, Vaijanti, Mala, Pitambara, Mora Mukuta, etc., Kaustavamani, all that he came. Srivatsa on his chest, and Urdhvanama, all that he has come here with beautiful glory, with all the attendants, he has appeared. So the king did the Naivedya, he offered the food to the god, and he said that, Swami, why were you coming? Why did you take so long? Was there some fault of mine? So he said, no. While I was coming here, one thief was coming towards your back door to steal some gold mudras. And he prayed before he entered. He prayed with his full heart and said, Lord, please help me to steal. I had to go there. See, the karma, the choice of the karma is not the Lord's, no? Krishna says that in Bhagavad Geeta also. I don't give you punya and papa. That is what you decide. My job is to help you in whatever you do, as long as you do it with full devotion. Whatever you do with full devotion, I will help you. I as in consciousness, I as in divine consciousness, I as in Ishvara, it doesn't matter. I will help you as long as you have applied your full consciousness. The consequences of that act are, however, yours, not mine. I don't give you consequences. So he prayed to me with the deepest devotion, saying, here is my chota bag, which I need to fill up with Swarna Mudra. Please come and help me, Lord. I had to go there, help him to overcome the guards with sleep. They went to sleep. He went inside, collected the gold coins, and then he went away. Then after all that was over, then I came here. So second learning. How we offer, as you rightly said, that is very important. But the intent behind the offering is equally important, because that is what will give us the consequences. Right? Ritual obviously is not important. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa's easiest example, he used to take flowers and he would put them at his own feet. He was sitting in front of the deity. He's sitting in front of Kali, who is for him a living entity. For him, it is a living entity. That idol, which we say as an idol, he was seeing that as a living entity. Talking with him, sitting with him. He used to sit on her lap, feed her. And in that, he used to take those flowers, put them on his own head, put them on his chest, put them on his feet, right? Offer her food and eat it himself. The oneness was one part of it. The other is also that it was not the ritual. It was the unification, the mind, the need for that unification. And a complete absorption in the faith and in the belief that there is no difference between me and Brahman. The Vedas declare this again and again and again. It is our inability, because of our vasanas, because of our ego, because of our body-mind consciousness, that we get stuck with this limitation. Yes, Raghuji, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, actually, now two things because of the story of the hibiscus flower that you mentioned. So we have in Tamil a saying, Kadai Tengaya Tiridi Valipulliyarke Satyanana. That is, he stole the coconut from the shop and goes and offers it to the Vinayak temple, which is on the way.
Mm.
So, anyway, the other one I wanted to say was about this story of Dhruva. Is it not correct that actually when Vishnu appeared before him and said, okay, you sit on my lap, he said, no, no, I want to sit on my
My
father's
father's,
lap.
yes.
That was his
Yes.
intention.
Correct. Correct. So it is that intent again coming back, right? He says, sit on my lap. Vishnu says, sit on my lap. I am the father of this entire universe. No, 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 no. I am still identified with my own body, mind, intellect. And therefore, I identify myself not as your son, but as the son of that particular king. And therefore, his lap, that attachment was still there.
Yeah.
But where is Dhruva bigger than us? Is because Dhruva says, I can't do it myself. I need your help. And then look at his concentration. Look at the concentration. When he's given that particular mantra, so in the Srimad Bhagavad Puran very clearly says, see, those of you who know the story of Ramanujacharya was given a particular mantra by his guru. And he was told that if you give this mantra to people, this is the moksha mantra. If you give this mantra to people, however, you will have to live for 1,000 lifetimes, keeping on coming back, because you have done Guru Droha. This is a secret mantra. You should not give it to anybody. Okay, I will take it. And he was given the mantra. And the moment he got the mantra, he went out, and in Srirangam, he climbed up the Dwaja Stamba, right? Went up to the Garuda on top, stood there, and called to people. Everybody came. Ramanujacharya is going to say something. Everybody came. He said, Om Namo Narayana. My guru has given me this mantra just now. He has said, if you chant this mantra, you will get moksha. His guru came out and said, I just now told you it is a secret. Now you are shouting it from the rooftop. He said, if everybody is ready to get moksha, I am ready to come 1,000 times. The realized master always operates from compassion. So his guru then says that, no, it was a test for you, and whatever, there is a different story that goes on over there. Now, in the Srimad Bhagavad Purana, when Dhruva goes into the forest, he meets the Saptarshis, and amongst them, Narad is also there. So the 8 of them, they are traveling, and they meet Dhruva. So the Narad Muni asks him, what is it that you want? So he says, I want to sit on my father's lap. Narad Muni then gives him the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So in texts which look at mantra upasana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya is a mantra which is supposed to grant material satisfaction. Vasu means the things of the earth, which is why the world is also called Vasundhara, right? Vasudha, Vasundhara, these are names to the earth. So Vasudeva means he who rules this earth. So only to him do you pray and you ask for material things. So therefore the mantra given to him was Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And now Dhruva starts chanting. And in 5 days, Indra's throne starts dancing. Now, what is the meaning of Indra's throne starting to dance? Indra means the ruler of the Indriyas. So the Indriyas became so controlled that Indra, who rules them, has started feeling insecure. So he tells the Saptarishis what happened. Saptarishis give the story, oh, this is what has happened. So then he says, you only have to solve the problem. You have caused it. You gave him that mantra. No, we only gave the mantra. The power of concentration that he has brought into this is not something that even we Rishis can do. 5 days. Without eating, without drinking, standing on the bank of a river, doing Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya at the age of 5. And manifested the Lord himself over there. So that, it's a big lesson, right? You have to look from these lives. The reason I keep telling people also to look at the lives of saints is not only to learn as to what they have struggled and gone through, but also when they are post-realization, how they have lived. Gives us a very clear indication of how we can live in this world very, very easily without having to begin getting entangled. Yes, please.
Yeah, Sadhguru said this, and others also have said this. Once you decide you want moksha, there is no force on earth that can prevent you from getting the moksha. Once you have decided, what does it mean decided? It means that that is it. You are not going to look for any other objective. You have to do that. But if you're doing that, so when people suddenly say, no, no, ye is janam mein nahi hone wala hai, to me, I feel that is defeatist, because they actually want to give an excuse for doing what they are continuing to do. Instead of saying, listen, that is your goal, go for it. They don't want to do that. They don't want to take that step. Now, you can do it like Krishna says, when you're working towards it, something happens, your life is ended at that point, you will come back and carry on from that point. But once you have decided, you should put your full effort in that.
So, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa again. See, firstly, I'm sure from the corporate perspective, you have heard this so many times. And this is so true in every sphere of life. Whatever you can conceive and believe, you can achieve. Right? Whatever you can conceive and achieve, believe you can achieve. Our second trip to Kailash, we were coming back. And I was in the lift and in the hotel in Kathmandu. And there was this boy who got into the lift also, and he was very clearly frostbitten. He had a black spot on his nose. His forehead had frostbite on it, not sunburn, frostbite. You could make out the skin and the flesh had become frostbitten. Some fingertips were also a little frostbitten, but they were anyway. So I asked him, "Where had you been? You have got so frostbitten." So he said, just coming back from summiting Mount Everest. He had only to say that much, and my eyes started watering. He did not have his right hand and his left leg. And despite that, and remember one thing, and he came from a very poor family. I invited him over. I told him, come, when we have dinner, please come and talk to us. Tell us about your story. And he said the first thing, he had lost his limbs in some accident. And very young, 23, 24 years old. And he decided that he's going to do this. And the first thing he needed was sponsors, because the one trip to Mount Everest is around 30 lakhs for a expedition. And he came from a very small village somewhere in part of lower Bihar, which is, on the borders of Jharkhand. This young chap, he went around from company to company looking for sponsors, and people would first react and say, "You can't do it." And he told us a story. He said about, the frogs had a competition to climb up the coconut tree. And so all the frogs got together and they started climbing. And one frog would reach some height and everybody would say, "Be careful, be careful, be careful." And the frog would come back. So this one frog got in and he just went, tuck, 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 and everybody was shouting, "Be careful, be careful." He just didn't bother. He just went up. And then he came down. And then they asked, "How did you do it?" What are you saying? Because he was deaf. So he actually, this boy told us this very nice story. And he said, "I decided to be deaf to people's negativity, because I had decided that I'm going to do it." So whatever you can conceive, whatever you can achieve at a physical level also, the same truth applies. But then, do we really desire it, or is it something, it is nice to have? It is nice to have. See, there is must have, should have, nice to have. Where are you classifying moksha? Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa used to say that people shed tears for Kamini. People shed tears for Kanchan. His favorites. Kamini and Kanchan were his favorite allegory for this material world. Kamini means a beautiful woman. Kanchan means gold. So people shed tears for Kamini and for Kanchan. How many shed tears for Kali? that's the intensity with what we want something. So that reminded me, Kamini Kanchan reminded me of another story. Swami Dayanand Saraswati, who was one of the primary disciples of Gurudev, who later on then broke off and started Arsha Vidyalaya and so on and so forth. So Swami Dayanand Saraswati was doing a Gita Jnana Mahayagya at Calcutta. And this was in a place called Vivekananda Park near Southern Avenue. It was a beautiful 18-day function. Every day in the morning from 8 to 10. And the idea was that in 2 hours, he would summarize one chapter. Every day, one chapter would happen. And this became then 8 to 11 actually. So 3 hours every day, 18 consecutive days. Other events would also happen like any other Gita Yagya. So all of that was there. He started off with Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveta, Yuyutsavaha, and then he said, Dharma Kshetre, what is Dharma? And that is where we started the whole 18 days. He did not go beyond the first chapter, first slide. 18 days it took, in which he brought in all the concepts of chapter 2, chapter 3, everything, but from that one word alone. And he was going on about this whole concept of understanding and detaching from the material world. And he kept using, since I am in Bengal, let me use the words of Kamini and Kanchan. And he kept talking about Kamini and Kanchan. On the 18th day after that was over, one lady around the age of 40s, she got up. She had a very thick gold chain on her neck. She took it off, put it on a plate. She went and she offered it to Swamiji. So Swamiji looked at that and said, now I have been talking for 18 days for Kamini and Kanchan. Now I have Kamini coming here, giving me Kanchan. What should I do? So it was a funny incident. Obviously, he took that offering in terms of giving it to somebody to take a receipt and all that. But see, the money is not bad. No, that's neither Acharya himself is saying that, nor is Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa saying that, nor is Swamiji saying that, nor is Gurudev saying. Our attachment to money is bad. That is where our problem is, isn't it? And hence, let's move to the next shloka, which is exactly where we should be. He says, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, Yajjuhoshi dadasi yat, Yajjuhoshi dadasi yat, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, Yajjuhoshi dadasi yat, Yat tapasyasi kaunteya, Yat tapasyasi kaunteya, Tat kurushva madarpanam, Tat kurushva madarpanam, Yat tapasyasi kaunteya, Tat kurushva madarpanam, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, Yajjuhoshi dadasi yat, Yat tapasyasi kaunteya, Tat kurushva madarpanam. Yat, whatever, karoshi, whatever you do, Yat ashnasi, whatever you eat, whatever you consume, Yat juhoshi, whatever you offer into the fire, right here, which means whatever is put into work, whatever work we do, Yat juhoshi. Yat tapasyasi, whatever austerities, tapas is austerity. Here in that sense, I would say, what is the austerity? Here is whatever mental activity we have. Kaunteya, tat, that, kurushva, do it as an offering to me. Such a beautiful thought. Whatever I am doing, whatever I am eating, whatever I am doing, whatever actions for karmic actions I am doing, whatever mental aberrations I may have, all of that I am offering you. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa had a story about, not a story, a methodology. He used to say that you may not be able to stop anger. You get angry. Anger has come into your body, into your mind. The cause of that anger has gone away, but anger remains in your mind. Right? What do you do with it? He says, redirect it. And take a thought and say, I have been calling you for so many years, my mother. Why have you not come to me? I am now angry with you. I will not talk to you. Now you redirected that anger into something bigger, something more powerful to help you to control your mind. This is an example. When we are doing something, we may not be conscious of the fact that it is to be an offering. Easiest example will be sit down and do your Soham Japa. By the 25th minute, the mind suddenly you realize that the mind is going somewhere. It is somewhere in Paris, it is somewhere in New York, it is somewhere in the Arctic Ocean, right? It is somewhere in wherever. In some Rasgulla, it has got stuck. When you realize it, bring it back. When you realize it, you bring it back. That is what he's saying. When he says that it must be an offering to me, meaning a lot of teaching is going on here. What is that lot of teaching? We looked at this in chapter 5. In chapter 5, what do we say? We are no longer the doers, because doing can only happen through body, mind, intellect. So even though I may have a remnant of my connection of identification with my body, mind, intellect, I redirect that work to make it an offering. In the Dvaita school, yes, Raghuji, in the Dvaita school, the verses, these two verses are actually taken from here in the Advaitic thinking, the way I'm trying to talk about it from Gurudev's tradition. In the Dvaitic thinking, this has been converted into physical offering, because they believe that the Dvaitic belief is that the Jiva and Shiva are not the same. When I'm using the word Shiva, I'm meaning Ishvara in whatever form is looked at. Whether it is ISKCON, they will call it Krishna. In the Shaiva Siddhanta, they will call it Shiva. In the Shakta traditions, not in Sri Vidya, but in the other typical Kaula Shakta traditions, they will call it Devi, and so on and so forth. Right? The Ganapatyas will call it Ganpati. The Skandas will call it Kumara, right? And so on and so forth. So that this Ishvara, the concept of Ishvara in the Dvaita school basically says that, just one second. So in the Dvaita school, it will say that the Jiva and Shiva cannot be the same. So what is the role of the Jiva? The role of the Jiva is to continuously keep doing Seva. Everything that you do is Seva. You breathe, Seva. You exhale, Seva. You bathe, Seva. So everything that you are doing, make it Seva. Now what happens here? My Dvaita friends don't like me when I say this, because I always, being Advaiti myself, I always like to obviously say that the Dvaitic school is the highest school of thinking. And so therefore, the Advaitic school being the highest, what happened is, now if you look at the teachings of the Vedas, where do they start? They always start at the ultimate stop. They start with the first, right? They start at the beginning and they say that everything is over, right? Look at Bhagavad Geeta, chapter 2, where Krishna first speaks. He speaks of the unity of consciousness. Then he explains all of that. Same principle being applied, extrapolated. When the Karma Kanda became very important, Avataran happened, right? Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He came down. When we understand he came down, we understand that from that particular concept we're saying, it's not some physical being who is coming down. It is a consciousness which takes a particular form for us in the form of a teacher. Now this teacher comes and he teaches you that Karma Kanda is not important. There is no God who is important. So now this is interesting, isn't it? Divinity takes on the form of Buddha and says, Divinity is not existent. Right? And he managed to create a whole belief system which took people away from karma kanda. Now they had to be brought back to the philosophical side of living. So the same consciousness comes back as Shankaracharya and tells you, Aham Brahmasmi, everything is the same. There is no, everything is Advaita, till gives you Manisha Panchakam, etc., etc. Now this is too difficult to understand. So what happens? Ramanujacharya comes. Ramanujacharya comes and says, okay, you don't understand it, no problem. You, Jiva and Shiva are the same, except that the qualities are the same, quantities are different. A drop of ocean, a drop of water from the ocean, and the ocean are actually the same, except that the ocean is much bigger and will be separated. But when the ocean, the drop goes and merges into the ocean, there will be no differentiation. Okay, looks a little better. Then, but yet people can't understand, how can I have the same qualities as Ishvara? Can I create? Can I destroy? Can I protect? So very, very different. Okay, so then Madhvacharya comes. Same consciousness coming back again and again, right? And says, okay, you guys are not going to be able to understand all of this. Let's start with the basics. You first decide, do everything as a seva. Start there. When you start doing everything as a seva, what happens? You start losing your ego. When you start losing your ego, what do you realize? You realize that the egoless state of Parthoda will be the same as the egoless state of Raghuji and the egoless state of Samir. This is an interesting development. So if I remain in this egoless state, what happens? I perceive unity. So now I have climbed the ladder, going back from Dvaita to Vishishtadvaita to Advaita. Now, therefore, coming back to what I was talking about, that the Advaitic school starts off with this particular basic concept. In one of your voice notes you recently sent back to me, Raghuji, you talked of certain behaviors and you used the word cult. Viewpoints, perspectives, and cults are different. Right? Cult means there has to be a certain degree, and I'm looking at I therefore have to look up the dictionary meaning and try to understand what is the word cult, because you see in our when we go to Shabrimala, a lot of people talk of the Ayyappa cult, right? Now the idea of a cult has a very important concept. One, it is selectively inclusive. It is selectively inclusive, number one. Number two, it denounces all other positions, right? Or is has animosity towards any other position. Whether it is a cult or not a cult, it doesn't matter. So if you have a cult, for example, the mafia is a cult, right? It is very selectively inclusive and is inimical. It has shatruta around it, right? By its own choice. So whether it is a police, which is not a cult, whether it is the general public, which is not a cult, or which is another gang, which is another cult, they will be having enmity. If you look at, okay, what is the name of our dharma? I could literally, no. It is not Sanatana Dharma. It is not Sanatana Dharma. What is the name of our dharma? Parthoda, try.
Dharma of humanity?
I don't know. What is the actual name?
Not Hinduism, not Hindu
Hinduism
dharma.
Hindu is a new name. Hindu is a new name. See, Sanatana means eternal. If you answer Sanatana Dharma, then you are answering a question. What is your name? I ask Raghuji. He says, I was born in 1960. That is the answer you have given me. I asked you, what is your name? You said, I was born in 1960. Sanatana means it is eternal. The time frame is what you have given me. You have not given me the name. The name is Vaidika Dharma.
Huh?
Vaidika
Sorry?
Dharma. Vaidika
Vaidika
Dharma.
Vaidika. Okay.
Vaidika Dharma.
The name of our Dharma is Vaidika Dharma, not Sanatana Dharma. Right? I've been shouting this.
Because it has come from the Vedas, is it?
Correct. Now both positions.
But
ask,
didn't the Vedas
No, hold on.
simply collate the
Yes.
information about the Dharma? So to give it, it's like saying, what is this? The name of the Dharma? Oh, it is that book. You know,
No, it is not that book.
how is that?
Vedas are not books. Vedas are not books. Vedas are knowledge.
You know,
Books are a form.
collection.
Books are a form. Again, the Vedas were a collection. As a collection was done by a particular person called Vedavyasa. The knowledge existed before Vedavyasa. The knowledge existed before humanity. That knowledge, and that knowledge is twofold. I mean, it has two approaches also. You can be a Gnostic. Vedas themselves will say, you do not need to accept this knowledge. And if you do not accept this as a knowledge, you are a Gnostic. Right? You accept this as a true knowledge, you are a Gnostic. Perfectly all right. In the Astic also, there are two parts. One part which will say, oh yes, I accept you as true knowledge, but I don't exist. I don't believe in the existence of the Atman. Very, no problem. I'm ready to accept you. Right? Samkhya does not escapes the whole concept of Atman and goes away from there and talks about Purusha Prakriti and so on and so forth and goes away. Right? Yoga doesn't mention Atman at all. It talks of Samadhi, but doesn't say what is Samadhi. It defines it in a way where it avoids the concept of Atman. So, knowledge, basis of our religion is knowledge. Hence, Vaidika Dharma. Right? So, one, perspective, as you very rightly said, very interesting analogy that was, I will share it on the group because it is a very interesting question as well as an analogy that was used by Raghuji. Is, why do I have to conform? If I come to Chinmaya Mission, why do I have to say Hari Om? Incidentally, if you go to any Advaitika ashram, you don't have to say anything. The whole approach of Advaita being so encompassing that you can go say Om Namo Narayana, perfectly okay, and I don't care. You say Om Namah Shivaya, that is also okay. You say Namaste, that is also okay. You don't say anything, and you say Good Morning, that is also okay. As long as you recognize that the other person is worth respecting and his truth and your truth may be different, but you have to learn to accept. Titikshasva bhava, Arjuna. He says, Titikshasva. Be accepting of the fact that perspective in the material world, perspective is your reality. Your truth is defined by your perspective. So Advaita is also a perspective. Acharya himself says that the Vedas also are themselves aparavidya. Right? We saw that in when we were doing Brahma Sutra. When we were doing the whole chapter of Adhyaksha, we looked at it and we saw that even the Vedas themselves are apara. They are the pole which will help you to vault, but they are also the pole. You will have to drop that. Hence here, when we go back to this particular, sorry, you had something to add, Raghuji, you had raised your hand and I. So here we go back to the concept of saying, whatever I do, now one is at a physical level, whatever I do. The second is, so when I'm doing something and I'm deeply engrossed into that, I may lose consciousness of the fact that I am not the doer. But the moment your consciousness comes back, the practice is, and say, so nice. I forgot about the surroundings. I got deeply engrossed into this particular thing, whatever it was. I was listening to a song, I was eating, I was cooking, I was reading a book, I was enjoying a play. It doesn't matter. I just got deeply involved. And then I came back. That was consciousness playing a role. Consciousness doing its drama. You come back to that knowledge, right? Yes, yes, Raghuji.
Yeah, I remembered. What is it? This is, and you alluded to it also in your discussion. When you do something with not nishkam karma, without the kartritva bhava, when you're doing it, isn't that actually doing it in offering? Because it's no longer yours. So it's already offered, it's gone. Already
Correct.
gone. Isn't that the
Correct.
case?
Correct. Correct. Now, when you're doing it without the concept of doer and saying that it is only just happening, then you have arrived at a point where you're saying whatever is happening is happening. It is only a part of the play that is happening across. And there are multiple actors who are acting in it, but they are only actors, including me. And yet, therefore, he says, Yat karoshi, yat ashnasi, yat juhoshi, dadasi. Even when you are giving charity, whatever you give, when you are doing charity, whenever you are giving away something, all of that is nothing but the play of your consciousness in this entire game. So we move to verse number 28, which will be the shloka for Manan. Shubha-shubha-phale-revam Shubha-shubha-phale-revam Mokshase karma-bandhanehi Mokshase karma-bandhanehi Shubha-shubha-phale-revam Mokshase karma-bandhanehi Sannyasa-yoga-yuktatma Sannyasa-yoga-yuktatma Vimukto mamupeshyasi Vimukto mamupeshyasi Sannyasa yoga yuktatma Vimukto mamupeshyasi Shubha shubha phale revam Mokshase karma bandhanehi Sannyasa yoga yuktatma Vimukto mamupeshyasi Shubha Shubha Ashubha phala, good, bad results. Evam, thus, mokshase, you shall be freed. Karma, work, bandhanehi, from the bondage. Sannyasa yoga, right? In the situation or renunciation of all self-centeredness. Sannyasa yoga, yuktatma. Yuktatma we have seen number of times, so I'm not explaining. Vimuktaha, vishesha rupena muktaha, completely liberated. Mam, to me, upeshyasi, you shall reach. In the Dvaita school and the Advaita school, how do these schools differ? These schools differ basically in understanding what is Jiva, what is Shiva. I'm using Shiva just because Jiva and Shiva sound very poetically correct, right? They rhyme with each other. So what is Jiva and what is Shiva? What is the relationship with these two? What is the relationship of Jiva with this world around? Third question. Fourth question, how does the Jiva operate in this world? What is the Jiva supposed to do in this world? And fifth question, how does the Jiva get liberated? These are the 5 questions that all the big schools, right? When I say big schools, there are schools which have got derived from these big schools, like Shuddha Dvaita, Dvaita Dvaita, etc., etc. These are derivative schools which have taken various philosophies and merged them and come with their own. And they all had great acharyas. Nimbarkacharya, for example, is a great acharya who started this, one of the schools, Shuddha Advaita school. The 3 big schools, Advaita, Dvaita, and Advaita, Vishishta, Advaita, and Dvaita, they try to answer these 5 questions, and all of these 5 questions may be different from each other. How does the jiva attain moksha? Now, the Dvaita principle gives 4 types of moksha. Salokya. I live in your house. Right? Samipya. I live in the same house, I sleep in the same bedroom. Sarupya. I've been married to you for 30 years, now I've started looking like you. Right? Now, actually, it doesn't happen. You don't actually look like that person. But what happens is your gestures, your mannerisms, your way of talking start becoming very similar. Sarupya. Sarshti. Your powers are the same. Right? Now, when you got married and then you had a child, your child would have differentiated between how it deals with papa and how it deals with mama. By the time the child has become 25 years old, it has got confused between what is papa's powers and what is mama's powers. So the child goes to the mother, seeks permission, and gets the permission from the father. Because the unity of thinking between father and mother has become so close that they exercise the same viewpoint in a similar direction. Sarshti. Right? So, stages. Right? You live in the same place, you become closer, then you start looking like the same person, and then you have the same powers. Then Vishishtadvaita says, there is one more. Ayujya. Then you become one. You become one. Advaita says, all of this is bullshit. You are already free. You are already free. What is all these stages of moksha, this, that, everything? You are just now, you are free. Just now, right now, you are free. So this is the basic viewpoint difference. Bhagavad Gita can be interpreted from all 3 viewpoints. All 3 acharyas have written their treatises on this. All 3 are equally right because it is a matter of perspective. It is a matter of what you choose of how that works. Because of that perspective, when you want to fall into that perspective and use that particular chart or way, then you have to follow the rules. Partially to answer what Raghuji was talking about, you have to follow the rules. Right? So here is your manan. Questions that I want you to think about. Shubha, Shubha. What is Shubha? What is Ashubha? Firstly. Number 1. Right? Shubha, Ashubha Phale. What is Shubha? What is Ashubha? What is Shubha Phala? What is Ashubha Phala? What is the meaning of moksha se karma bandhanaihi? What is the meaning of getting freed from the bondage of work? What is the meaning? And then sannyasa yoga yuktatma. What is a sannyasa yoga yuktatma? Who is this person? What is the person who is a sannyasa yogi, who is also a yuktatma? 3rd question. 4th question. Mam upeshyasi. You shall reach. You shall reach me. 1, what is this me that you shall reach? And 2, how does one reach there? The 4th question had 2 parts. So, Manan for the next session. Please remember these 4 questions and we shall start from there. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.